Hello there, welcome. I am Beverly Lewis, and I am here with Marlene Honig, and I am so excited about what we are going to be sharing over the next few minutes with y'all. I guess you can tell I'm from North Georgia, that y'all just gave it away. Actually, I'm from Florida, now live in North Georgia. Quick introduction to me. I am an executive trainer and a speaker, have been doing that for decades, and I've always also had my hand in the nutrition and wellness industry. It's been a passion of mine since I got out of college, actually. And so last year, I went on another uh, trail in my health journey. All of us have stories by this time in our lives. And the the health adventure that I had last year, I call it an adventure now because I'm on the positive side of it. But I was to summarize it, I could say I had an immune system challenge, but the Americans call it the big C. But I decided when I got this unexpected diagnosis last January that I was going to be a little C in my life, that I was going to come out stronger and healthier than I'd been in at least 10 years. And so I decided that it was going to be a journey of victory. And I don't say that lightly. There was a lot that went into that decision. And I'm not going to say there was no fear that ever came into the equation because that would not be authentic. But that's where I am now. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this, but that is how I discovered what we're going to be talking about today. And I guess I'll say this, that I decided that I was going to do my recovery as natural as possible. And part of my reason for that is my husband had gone through stage 3 colon cancer 5 years before. And he did all the traditional therapies. He had surgery, he had chemotherapy, he had radiation. And as of last year, he was still had major recovery in front of him, even though he was cancer free. The results, the damage from all of the treatment was significant. And so I didn't want to go that route. And during my search, I did all kind of changes, which I won't go into, changed my diet, changed everything that you can think of, the clothes I was wearing, the laundry detergent I was using, the skincare products in my life and in my house, and, certainly organic food and juicing and herbs and essential oils and et cetera, et cetera. But I knew that I needed another advantage to strengthen my immune system so that it would never come back. Because they were, when I didn't want to take the radiation and drugs, they were like, oh, this is a big risk. You're taking a big chance, and this is a big mistake. So I thought, Lord, I know you have something for me that I can afford without going bankrupt. And because there's a lot of therapies out there that are very expensive. And so it was during that time that a doctor whom I know, his name is Dr. Joseph Peck, did a webinar called A Breakthrough in Regenerative Science. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder what he's talking about. So I listened to this webinar where he introduced the X39 LifeWave patch that Marlene and I are going to be talking about today. And I thought, I think this is an answer. I am going to go with this. And I have to say that usually my husband, his usual response is, how much does that cost? He didn't respond that way. He said, oh, well, I want to do that too. So we started using this patch, which we'll explain a little bit more. And it was a remarkable result that both of us got very quickly. And it came to the point where I can't help but not, I have to tell people about it. And that's how Marlene and I have known each other for many years. I had actually called a mutual friend of ours and said, I really think this is something that you would be benefited by taking a look at. And she was very sweet and kind and said, I thank you for thinking of me, but I don't think so. So I just left it at that. And A couple weeks later, I get a call from Marlene, and this friend who wasn't interested had told Marlene because I really didn't know what was going on with Marlene's health. So now I'm going to toss it to you, Marlene, and say, tell us what was going on with your health. Why are we here?
Oh, we're here because God is good and He is faithful and He connects us. Thank you, Beverly. And everyone who's taken the time to listen to this because I've been on a health journey, I guess, probably all my life. But as a teenager growing up, I was always healthy. I always considered myself to have divine health. And several years ago, I went and through a series of traumatic events, um, I noticed that my body was just getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and multiple things were happening in it. And being a crisis and trauma care pastor, for many, many, many years and taking care of my father when he was 85 and he was going through cancer treatment. My dad had always been divinely healthy his entire life. And I watched him go downhill. I watched his energy go. I watched his hope go. I watched a lot of things in his life. But as I was taking care of him, I was taking care of him in a house that was mold infested. Environmentally, it was not a very safe place for either of us to be. At the time, I really didn't realize all the serious things that were happening to both of us there. And so, um, I really I really started researching myself about the brain, about trauma and what happens to the body when trauma occurs. And so trauma is like a break. It's a break in your
Mm,
systems, it's a break in your mind, it's a break, a crisis when it happens. A lot of things happening. And so I started researching and studying that and becoming kind of an expert on what happens to people physiology, emotionally, and mentally when they're going through trauma. And that has become really kind of the basis of my ministry that I do. But some of the things that were happening in my body, I didn't realize the significance of it, of keeping your body in health. And so that was when I started looking at different alternative methods because I was going to traditional doctors. They weren't finding anything wrong with me. But I was having some serious spleen issues. I was having problems with my lymph system. I was not eliminating. My gut was in trouble. My vision started going. I started having
mm,
actual high blood pressure that they couldn't explain. My systems, in fact, the liver, the kidney, they were all shutting down, and my body was filling up with fluids. And they couldn't find anything wrong in my blood work. I mean, there was just a myriad of problems. So I started using different holistic things like acupuncture. I started doing bath detoxes. I was doing lymph drainage massage therapies, and these would help. They would help. I started taking high powered nutrients that they were giving to AIDS patients to get my blood and everything else, circulation going. And yes, I was spending thousands of dollars on trying to save and get my life back together. And of course, when all these things start happening in people's bodies, and this was in mine, my mental and emotional state began to deteriorate. I
mm.
began to go downhill really, really, really fast. Depression, oppression. And I'm a woman of prayer. I'm a woman that believes, okay, well, we're just going to pray this thing through. But as I began to research and study, the Lord began to show me about His creation, my body. And it was like a circuit breaker. It was like electricity. It needs a full circle in order to to give off the energy and things. So as that continued to break, and I continued to pray about this break, I would get better for a season. The chronic fatigue would come and it would go. But as soon as I would find myself almost like a glass of water, it was like, okay, I'd get the stress level, the anxiety level down to a certain point, and then I would start to feel a little bit better and start to cope again, but never was my full self. And so then something would happen, a traumatic event, a crisis, aging. I mean, the aging thing, I didn't realize in our bodies, just the fact of growing older, our bodies start to lose cells. They start to lose collagen. They start to deteriorate. Our hair starts getting real thin. Our skin starts to get thin. And I was noticing all these things. And so um, a couple of years ago, another traumatic event hit me, and it sent me into a mental place that I really didn't know if I was going to be able to pull up from. It was a nosedive. And so, um, being a crisis counselor, I knew I was in trouble. I knew that, like many firefighters or police officers or people, professionals that work in healthcare or work into emergency recovery systems, this is why we're seeing suicides. This is why we're seeing an overflow of people when their stress level gets to that anxiety of vicarious trauma is what I considered what I was in, and complex trauma. Your body just goes into a place where you're just barely surviving. You're certainly not thriving. And this is where I was when I got I got a phone call. I was just in a conversation and they mentioned about what you were going through and about the X39. She didn't tell me the name of it. She just told me you were doing something with regenerative health. And I thought, this is something that I really want to investigate because um, I need something that is going to change my biological body, because in my mind, in my heart, even in my spirit with the Lord, I knew I needed something more. And a supernatural miracle was just not happening in my body. And sometimes when I'm working with people, I realize they need something more than just okay, a supernatural healing miracle. They need to educate themselves. They need to do something. They need to take a few steps in the right direction to get past the situation that they're in, to rebuild and regenerate and recover the things that they've lost. And that's what I did when I started using the patches that you sent to me, and I could feel almost an immediate um recovery whenever I put the first patch on the first day. I woke up the next morning and I realized that I had gotten out of bed without any pain, without any soreness, without any, like, I didn't have any trouble getting up out of bed. Now, that may seem like a lot to some people, but when you're in a mode of working hard every day, of focusing, of trying to help other people, and then you have to take the weekends to lay in bed and recover so that you can get up on Monday morning again. Um, I didn't tell anybody about this, but I would spend my weekend in recovery mode in order to be
Mm,
able to function the rest of the week. And so I just noticed something was happening. And so our bodies were never meant to be unhealthy. Our bodies were always created to be whole body, the
mhm,
physical body, the mental body, the emotional body. And so um, realizing that I'm not in heaven yet, um, And so we're not in that perfect environment that God created originally for Adam and Eve. We're in a world that is moving, and it is, um, trouble comes, it's going to come, disease is going to hit us, disaster is going to hit us. So the best things that we can do as believers, I believe, is to build our capacity, number one, and our resiliency to fight. And so I decided at that point when I spoke to you, it wasn't about the $100 a month that I was going to be spending. It was about the fight. I was going to take the fight. Either I believed in this process, and I started to read and study about the patch itself. And I know you're going to share some, but I have seen in the last 5 months a desire to be healthy, a desire to be happy, a desire to discover my purpose again in life, which I know what my purpose is. I mean, I can sit here and try and articulate what I do, but the Lord just said, Marlene, you just need to be who I created you to be. I appreciate you. And the reason I appreciate you is because I created you, and that's what you do. You help other people learn to appreciate their life that they've been given. And I want to do what I can do. The gift and talents that God has given each one of us are unmeasurable. And what we do with those gifts and talents, we can either bury them out of fear, or we can invest them in other people and in God's purposes. And so, what I've noticed, I wrote down um, what my symptoms were. Symptoms have been over the years: enlarged spleen, inflammation, pain, respiratory problems, stomach issues, brain fog, um, hopelessness was a big one, insomnia, irritability, critical thinking, blurred vision, and more. But the big one was chronic fatigue. And so, like I said before, I spent thousands of dollars on this, but Beverly, I'm noticing the biggest thing is my spirit is stronger. I'm able to spend time with the Lord again, without just having to lay down and pray, God, if you want me, take me home. If not, you're going to have to heal me. But right now, I'm just surviving to get through another day. And just as you explained, this is why I continue to be who I am and where I am with this patch. And so now I'm feeling the capacity, number one, to live again, to love again, to there was a point in time at one time where I just didn't even know that I could love my kids and my grandkids the way I wanted to love on them. And um, I'm starting to, my brain fog is gone. My mental clarity is coming back. I'm able to sit down and research and read scripture again. I'm able to look up words in the Greek and pursue a story with the Lord. And then I'm also enabled to smell again. I'm able to hear. Um, I'm able to hear the birds. I'm able to hear the butterflies, the hummingbirds, but more so, I'm able to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit again like never before. And when he tells me to slow down or talk to this person or what to say, I'm not anxious to get through the moment or get back to the house where I can start to recover again in seclusion. And I'm wanting to get involved with people on a fellowship level, not just trying to help people get through their next day. So that's my testimony. I'm sticking to it and I'm continuing.
I love it. You know what I want to share with people is that a lot of times when people hear about this, maybe we haven't mentioned anything that applies to you, but anything that is affected your blood, your bones, your immune system, your organs, and your tissues. All of those things make up the systems of your body. And the reason that X39, let me just share real quick some things about why this patch works. This is a stem cell. We talk about stem cells, and I don't know, Marlene, that you've shared that, but most people now in science right now, in the natural field, there are two things that are kind of buzzwords. One is stem cell, and most people have heard of those from the standpoint of stem cell injections, particularly for people that need knee replacement or hip replacement. But another big word is peptides. And the thing that is amazing about X39 is that it activates stem cells because it raises the level of what is known as copper peptides in your blood system. Let's see, this my screen is not going forward to the next one. Well, I'm just going to get rid of this then. I'm just gonna get rid of that because it wouldn't let me go forward. So the science behind it, I will just say this, that the name X39 comes from when the inventor, his name is David Schmidt, who is the owner of this company called LifeWave that manufactures these little patches. They come in a sleeve. They look like this. They're about the size of a quarter. You wear them. I usually wear this on the back of my neck, but I wanted to be able to show you today that it's as simple as putting on this little thing that's like a Band-Aid. But what it does is it has a structure of amino acids in it that work with the infrared light emitted by your own body, and it begins to direct that light in a certain path that raises these copper peptides, and it starts your body to make stem cells. Most people don't realize that by the time you're 30 years old, you've lost about half of your stem cell activity. And by the time you're 60, it's about 90%. They're asleep. And that's what Marlene mentioned, the aging process. You don't have the ability to rebuild cells anymore. And so that's what X39 does. And it's an amazing technology. It comes with this, that now there's over 130 clinical studies on these patches. There is a patent that actually reads, let me just see if I can read that patent to you, because I don't think it's going to let me go forward. There it is. There's the patent. Yay. The patent says the words that it is a result, the embodiments of what is produced with this product, which is considered a wellness device. It is a result of elevating copper peptide, including activation of stem cells, improvements in energy, elevation of antioxidants. And over time, it is a proprietary technology, It is patented. I mentioned that. It is non-transdermal. You know, people say, well, if I'm taking this medicine or that medicine or this, can I use this? Well, this doesn't put anything to your skin. It doesn't have vitamins or herbs or medicine or anything that is transmitted into your skin. It stimulates your body to heal itself. And Marlene already mentioned what the results tend to be. I did want to mention this real quickly. It's interesting because this is one of the clinical studies that involved a 77-year-old woman who they were looking at X39 and its effect on brain activity. And this one, session one, it shows before she had started to wear X39, you see a lot of orange in that picture that was a thermographic scan of her brain. Orange indicates inflammation. And by session two of wearing X39 for just 3 weeks, that inflammation was gone. And what that means is that you can think clearly again. And by session three, after 6 weeks, she once again continued in these clinical studies to show the proof of better brain coherence. What you can expect in the first few days is 4,000 genes begin to reset themselves to a younger, healthier state. Within 6 weeks, you can expect your brain to be more balanced. Within 3 months, your own collagen has increased in your body. And within 6 months, clinical studies have proven that your heart starts to reverse in age. We've already showed you where you wear it. You wear it one patch at a time of the X39 anyway, and you wear it for 12 hours during the day and then take it off, throw it away. Drink plenty of water while you're on it. And it is as simple as that. So, that's there's a lot that can be said. I will say that I am kind of a nerd when it comes to research on things like this. So believe me, I could talk for hours about it. I'm not going to do that. But before I close this out, Marlene, is there anything else that you want to say in conclusion?
Beverly, I think that I'm, we've been talking about doing this video, and I was like, okay, I'm not really ready to do this video, but today I'm ready. I'm just ready because I just can't say enough. Like you said, I've watched videos and videos and videos, and I've shared this with others, and I want to share it with more people I love, and family and friends. And I just would just encourage anyone who wants to start to feel better, to at least give it a shot, because if you don't know what you don't know. And so that's what I've learned. Okay, I didn't know it was out there, and so I didn't know it was out there, but I'm so thankful that you shared it with me.
Well, it was a joy. And I think you mentioned that proverb. It's Proverbs 13:12. You mentioned it the other day when we were talking, and it says, hope deferred makes the
Mhm.
heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a
Woo!
tree of life. And that's what I'm observing. I've got so many testimonies of others that I can tell you of what's happened in their lives. But one of the first things is the hope that is stimulated when you realize that there is an answer, that God does want you well, and He has a healing pathway for you. It is not just for Marlene, it's not just for me, but He wants His children well. And I love that thought that what I'm desiring to share is not blind optimism, but it is a radical hope. So I
Yeah.
hope you'll take the trail of radical hope and follow that trail after what Marlene and I've shared. Yes, we've got more information. There's things that you can read, there's sites you can go to. This is it, info.com is certainly one of those sites to begin with. But we are glad to answer your questions and invite you on a journey of better health. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Beverly.